Welcome back to the One-on-One podcast. I'm going to be frank with you, man. Y'all are just going to be eavesdropping in on just a conversation between two brothers, man. Like, this is my guy. Y'all know who this is. It's Trey Draper, man. What's up, Trey?
Kenny, what up, bro? How you doing?
Yeah, I feel bad for the people that are me and you're just going to talk and have a good conversation like we always do. But, man, I wanted to I've been trying to get you on this show for a minute now. You've been jet setting, man. You've been doing a lot of stuff, so it's been
Just
hard to
working,
get you on, but
working
you just
for sure.
working,
Nah,
man.
yeah. If they know it's 9 o'clock right now, it's 9 p.m. So we got to make time
Almost
for
9.
family. Oh yeah, mine. Okay, my computer says 9 Eastern, but yeah, 8:11.
Yeah. It's 8:11 right now. Yeah, man. Trey, I mean, most Memphis fans know who you are already. I mean, the last name Draper stands alone in the city when it comes to basketball, man. The Draper family is legendary in this city, but I was telling you prior to us recording, man, I was trying to kind of go through like how would I introduce Trey Draper to those who don't. You were basketball coach in the city of Memphis. You played for the University of Memphis, number one.
Yeah,
Basketball player at Mitchell, played for the University of Memphis, coached at Mitchell, uh,
trainer. You say trainer,
trainer,
Arthur,
um, author. I
speaker,
mean, but you're a
commentator.
national champion high school coach while you during your time at IMG, trainer. Now you're a best-selling author of The Winning Time. If you listen, you guys need to go and check that book out. If I'm going to put a link in the description
Hold on,
for
I
this thing.
got it right.
Yeah, where is
There
it?
it is
Let me see it.
right, it is right there.
Yeah. Oh, The
Got to
Winning
promote that.
Language, man. I said the
Got
winning.
to
I said The
promote.
Winning Time. That's a show. I knew it was
Yeah,
The Winning Language.
it's all love. It's right there. So go get it. We're gonna put the link out there.
Beautiful, man. The Winning Language, best-selling book, man. Just incredible life. But now, dude, like you are. Did you ever think that you would be on the commentary team for your alma mater at the University of Memphis?
No, I never. To be honest, I never seen that coming. That just kind of came. I mean, you know my journey. You and I've been around each other for like 10, 12 years now. So
Right.
the way it came about was insane. And then to be doing it for men and women is
Yeah.
I don't know if that's ever been done, but I love it, man. I love basketball. So and then to do it with the school that you love is a totally different, just a different life and a different journey.
I mean, you've played like all the roles in terms of basketball. Like you've been a trainer, you've been a coach, you've been a player, you've done all the things. How is it different being the commentator on the broadcast team? Is it just what's your preparation like? What does your mindset have to be going in? Like what is it? How's it changed for you?
Honestly, it's almost like preparing for a game. You can't. I'm in my office right now, so the setup is essentially, I've got notes here, I got
Yeah.
notes here, I got notes here. So it's essentially like doing a scout report, right? But in terms of just not on the court, I'm learning, diving into the um what's public of their life, of
Yeah.
these young athletes' life, and trying to tell their story of what how I would want to be told
Yeah.
and trying to find out things because of relationships that are noteworthy of saying. Um, but outside of just knowing stats and where they're from, name pronunciations, it's almost like doing a scout report. That's the best way I can put it.
Mm. I mean, you're watching. I mean, you've had many, many years of watching film. You're now watching film for both teams, right? Like you're seeing, like having to. So I get that. Is it weird to be, um, like, do you have to almost kind of turn off your Tiger fandom? I guess when you're
1,000% because because the network is ESPN. A lot of the games that I work are ESPN
right.
streamed or live. So you have to be neutral, right? There is a neutral line that comes into play. So essentially, people know me now or recognize me. So of course, you know
Right.
that I went to the University of Memphis, but I still have a job to do, right? So
Yeah.
I'm getting prepared for
Yeah.
the La Tech game and the Memphis game on Wednesday. And a lot of things that I'm learning about La Tech is very interesting. Even their
Yeah.
women's side being so dominant like the way
Yes.
that they have with, with Kim Mulkey, right? That may be something that we talk about. So obviously I know a lot about the University of Memphis and know, their journey and the path that a lot of these students, because that's essentially home for me. But
Yeah.
we looked at the Missouri game, right? I had the relationship with Tamar Bates, so I was able to go watch practice, right? It's almost like
Right.
getting prepared for like as if I'm going to coach the game, right? But being neutral and understand that you have a job to do and you're not, just a fan of the University of Memphis anymore. Even though, I may be rooting for them outside of that game, right? Like in the
Right.
Maui. I was like, it's Tiger Blue, right? I was rooting for him. But when I have a job to do, I got to get that done.
It is interesting though, because like I mean, your journey has been pretty wild. You've been able to rub shoulders and rub elbows with some really pretty interesting people that are guys that are in the NBA, guys that are. What's it like seeing Josh Green and Tamar
It's
Bates playing still, and
yeah, to
all
be
those
honest,
guys at
man, and
IMG that you
even
coached?
yeah, and even right by if we just talk about we don't have to get into it a lot, but like Ja being there tonight and play Jarris Walker, like just to see that
Right.
interaction was like crazy because
Right.
Jarris looks up to him like big brother. So
Yeah.
sitting there and it's like I tell, my dog JT all the time, like, bro, this never gets old, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
last week, the Grizzlies played, or excuse me, today's Sunday, so Friday, New Orleans Pelicans, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, right, who
Right.
essentially won the national championship game for us.
Who dunked
Yeah,
the ball,
like
won the national championship game for
it
IMG.
never
Yeah.
gets
Yeah.
old,
Wow.
man. So, if you would have told
Yeah.
me at, you know, early in my 30s that I have a roster of 27, 28 guys in the NBA that I've coached and
That's
trained,
crazy.
I wouldn't have believed it,
Crazy.
bro. Coming from
Crazy.
Memphis, coming from Mitchell High School, so I don't take any of it for granted.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just insane.
What part of your journey have you been the most surprised the development of it? Like, I was with you. There were I've been with you in multiple times where you've had to kind of decide where you're gonna go and what you're gonna do. I remember one specifically, me and you were doing a podcast together at Mitchell. We were
For
filming in
sure.
Mitchell.
Oh wow, you might have to play that. I know you can find it somewhere.
Oh, I can
But yeah,
find it.
I know what you're
And it
talking
was
about. Go ahead.
it was the day that you were offered the job at IMG, and
OMG.
I just remember looking at you and just seeing this look on your face, like you were
I
just
just
in you were on the moon, bro. You were like, you didn't know
yeah.
where and we were trying to figure out, is Trey okay? Like, is he good?
It was, and I'm gonna tell you what, I wasn't okay because essentially those kids at Mitchell were me, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And knowing in my head, I don't know how coaches take jobs and not say it. I had to cut if you find a video, I had to stop the podcast and go tell them because it
Yeah.
just I couldn't I just didn't feel I'm loyal, right? Loyal.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
read
yeah.
the book, loyalty is like my biggest thing. And knowing that I had just got that call 30 minutes before you and I were shooting that podcast, and I'm sitting there just like, how am I going to tell? Forget the job. I'll deal with that, the excitement later. It's like, how am I going to tell these kids in that locker room where I went to
Yeah.
school that look like me, that act like me? And that journey was special because people see Trey now and they don't realize that I represent a lot of people, right? I
Yeah.
represent the African American, right? I represent the young. I represent, the ones that didn't have the great playing career. I represent the inner city, right?
Right.
So when people see Trey, they see, they see it now, but I carry that with me because a lot of people don't get the opportunity that I have, that I had, and that I'm, God willing, will be, having or fortunate soon. So I try to keep that in mind with the journey, like, because I represent a ton of people.
Yeah.
Like my guys at Mitchell call me every day, right? They see,
Yeah.
Josh do something, or everybody see Josh do something. My phone is buzzing. Like it's just so when you keep that in mind that you represent not just yourself, not just my family, but the guys
Yeah.
that didn't get the opportunity. I think that alone makes the journey worth it.
Well, which part of it has surprised which development of your journey has surprised you the most? Was it being making that jump from Mitchell to IMG, or was it becoming an author? Like, what has
So
surprised you the
the
most?
jump from Mitchell to IMG because basketball is basketball, right? I won everywhere I went. I was voted team captain at the University of Memphis my junior senior
Right.
year, with pros. So basketball, I just needed an even playing field. IMG gave me an even playing field, right? We
Right.
went in along myself, JT, UJ, Mo, won a national championship for Ray. The Arthur might be the one.
Yeah, I think
That
so. I think
might
so.
be the one because
Yeah. Yeah. That's
it was
awesome.
more along the lines of telling the journey, right?
Yeah.
It's not a memoir. It's more of telling the characteristics and the journey that I have that's
Mm.
allotted me the opportunities to do what I do. And throughout the journey, I say I've never used a resume. When I got hired at Mitchell's, my alma mater, relationships. When I got to IMG, is relationships. TV, relationships. Training,
Relationship. Yeah.
relationship. Right? Don't even have a resume. If you ask me to send one right now, I have to create one. So, like, I think that's been the most interesting part
Yeah.
of the journey. And but if you would have told me that I had the number one book on Amazon in the first
Let's
month of
go.
coming out, I
Get out of
was
my face, man.
I was
Hey.
speechless. And the fact that it's still selling to this day and people are asking, and that's transition to going into speaking
Yeah.
and becoming
Yeah.
not essentially a motivational speaker, but just telling the journey. It's like I'm not telling you anything
Yeah.
that you don't know. What I'm trying to do is help pull these characteristics and pull these things out of you and show you that you can be African American. You can be young. You don't have to be the best at your sport. You can do this too. And that's just kind of where I went with it.
That's beautiful, man. I love me and you've known each other for so long. Like it's so like I never get tired of hearing kind of you talk about your story and your journey and where you've been because it really is, man. Like it is super inspirational. And I think and it's not your like I said, the Draper name in the city is just legendary, but it is just like you have carried that torch so well. And I like you're that kind of guy I walk into a room and I'm like, man, there's my guy, man. Like I
It's,
just I
you already it's love.
appreciate
And the thing is,
yeah,
I never change. I never change who I am because
yeah,
I know how it feels to be on the grind, to be on the come up, where I'm still going. Like I'm still trying to achieve. I've been blessed to, win awards lately and things like that. But it's like I remember a time when it wasn't popular to hang with Trey or to be cool with Trey. Like I remember that. I'm just being honest.
yeah,
Like I remember
yeah,
times, bro, getting on Twitter after games and people talking and people hating and saying what they're saying. And it wasn't, and I remember the people that stuck with me and that were
yeah,
loyal to me, and essentially that's why I would never change who I am. My mom and dad instilled it in me. Like I'll
yeah.
never change who I am because I know how I feel to be on the other side. So no
Yeah.
matter where I go, no matter where God takes me, I'm essentially be the same person because I know how I feel. I literally know how it feels.
Love it, man. Love it.
Your tweet says Jaren continues to be the best player on whatever court he steps on. If he was playing only 5 more minutes per game, he'd be in the MVP conversation. To which I responded, he's not the best player on his team tonight. Let's be real. Jaren is great, and we will not have this conversation turn into me hating on Jaren Jackson. It just will not happen. I think he is dominant.
Mhm.
However, Ja Morant is just a generational talent. He just lifts all boats. He's an absolute superstar, the biggest superstar that the city of Memphis has ever seen.
Mhm.
And he is going away the best player on this team and the most important player on this team.
You take the game as a whole, both ends of the floor. Jaren Jackson Jr. is not only dynamic on offense because he's a matchup nightmare. He is consistently great on offense, but he's also doing things on the defensive end that are generational and historic.
Tune in to the $2 Sports Show with Rusty Witten and Drew Gann every Friday at 3 p.m. only on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Remember the conversations that people were having of, is the team better without Ja?
I never entertained those.
Well, no, I didn't either.
Yeah, exactly.
But
No, I
they
hear
were
you.
they were
Yeah.
humorous to me. What a difference he makes when he's on the floor of just
Everything.
everything. From the moment you step on the floor thinking we can win this game or we're going to win this game.
It's not just a skill. Like there's an it factor that those guys have. That when they're playing and when it's going on, there's just a different vibe, just a different feel. What he embodies in and of himself it changes every single thing that happens on the floor, but it also changes everything that happens in the crowd. His it factor, his superstardom, and then the ability to back it up with how he plays.
Tune in to the Night Court Podcast with your hosts, Rob Fisher and Brevin Knight, on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel. Well, let's get to the Tigers for a little bit, man. I know this is your first year covering the team as a part of the broadcast team. Well, let me ask you this. Obviously everybody knows last year, right? Like everybody knows kind of what happened last year and the way that the team was developed, the way that the team was brought in, the levels. I think the excitement around the team with some well-known stars that were coming in to play for the University of Memphis, guys who, individually were very talented basketball players, and everybody knows how the season ended. It was a disappointment, I think, for everybody involved, not just the fans and the media that were covering the team, but also, I would say
Right.
the players and the coaching staff and everybody that was involved
For sure.
was disappointed. Coming into this year, with them having to revamp again, a new roster all over again, Nick Jourdain being the only returning guy back to this team, what were your expectations coming in when you started to see the roster being built out? Like, what kind of expectations did you have coming into this season?
For me, right, and people gonna say it sounds cliche, but when you've been, once again, I've worn many hats, right? And you've been a coach, you've been a player. What I've
Right.
learned in coaching is not to have expectation.
Hmm.
Right? You don't, because the preseason, none of that matters. That doesn't win a game. So, but when I know the culture, when you
Yeah.
know the leader in Penny
Yeah.
Hardaway, and you know the staff that he has around him, Andre. If you read the book, Andre Turner that's my
Yeah.
uncle. That's family right there.
Come
So
on.
then, I was fortunate enough to spend a lot of time with Nolan Smith in the gym 3 or 4 months, so I know them. So it's like you have those people leading the ship.
Mm.
Like you don't set expectation because you know what those guys are, if that makes sense. But then you go in and then you start to build it, and then you watch and pray. You be like, oh, this team's gonna be good because they have guards. Like when you have good guards in college basketball, you can win a basketball game. And right now, Penny probably has the best backcourt in the country. And now the world is seeing it. Right, we already
Yeah.
saw it, and I was fortunate enough to see it early on because of the relationships that I have and
Right.
being, a former athlete there. So when you have good guards, you can win a game, and that's where we are now with this new team.
I mean, I think most Tiger fans, most fans of college basketball have seen Tyrese Hunter play throughout the years, right? He's a fifth-year senior or a grad transfer, played for Iowa State for a couple of years, then came and played for Texas for a few years, and now he's in Memphis. What is it about Tyrese's game? Like, what? Obviously, in the Maui Invitational, he showed out, right? Like, was that a big game type mentality coming from him, or is that a level of like what do you see out of him that
So
has impressed you?
what impressed me, so I didn't personally train Tyrese myself, but Mo, I work hand in hand with Mo Wells. You can follow him on Instagram and Twitter. He trained Tyrese when we did things down in Austin. So before he even came to Memphis, I saw his work ethic and his approach to the game that didn't involve a ball, if that makes
Right.
sense. So his approach and his level of awareness and dedication to his craft will set him apart from anyone else, right? And I saw that before I even knew 365 days later
Yeah.
that we'll be in Memphis. So that alone showed me how serious how serious he approaches the game. But to say that when you take a guy that started every game of his college career,
Right.
there is no moment that's too big for him.
Right.
And I think that and that translates no matter where you go, right? Whether you're at Iowa State, whether you're at Texas, or you're at Memphis, because you've seen everything that you can possibly see in a college basketball game.
Why do you think? So let's go individually then to PJ Haggerty, true sophomore. When he signed to play with Memphis during the offseason, he was at the point in which he signed. I think one of the issues that I saw with it was he signed so early that a lot of Memphis fans forgot, I think,
How good he
halfway
was.
through the offseason of who
He
PJ
was done.
Haggerty,
Yeah.
what kind of ball player he is. And so there was a level of like, there was no splashy big names that they got. And I'm like, guys, he was the first one off the board. Like the guy for their team came in early, and that's what you want, right?
Mhm.
PJ Haggerty is, have you ever, like, how would you comp his game? Like, he just seems to be
He
such
can
a, go ahead.
he so didn't mean to cut you off, but he
You're
scores
good.
the ball at a high level, right? When you're able to score the ball that efficient. I said on the broadcast one day, we were talking and they said, well, he shoots 19% from three going into maybe I can't remember, maybe it was the Ohio game. And I said, you came to me. I said, don't pay attention. I said, do not pay
That's it. I remember
attention.
that.
I
That was me
told
and you
you.
talking. Yep.
You came to me. You say you shoot. I said, don't pay attention to the stat sheet. PJ Haggerty is one of those guys where you don't look at the stat sheet. You don't look at the numbers, the analytical side of his, because he can score the basketball. You don't average 27 points a game not being able to shoot the basketball.
Right.
At 6'3", maybe
6'3".
6'3".
I think
So-
6'2.5" without shoes is what they said. Yeah.
So that's what. So when you can score the ball like that, and then you have the ability to draw fouls the way that he's a foul magnet, and he's so crafty at the way that he draws and initiates contact. It's stuff that can't be taught.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's go into your trainer's mode for a second. How would you is that something that he's just a natural gift at, or is that something he's been trained to do? And how would you train somebody to do that?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a little bit of both, but it's a dedication to being in the gym too. Because if you notice, certain times when he drive, it may have been the Michigan State game. If it wasn't, it was one of the games in Maui. And I paused it and I rewind the tape because I said he had a chance to go get the layup, but his awareness of the game to know that they're big it may have been UConn. I have to go back and watch, but I have it in my notes to draw the foul and to go. He had a wide open layup to the left hand, but to initiate the contact and to draw the foul and get the and one, then go to the line. That's stuff that you just can't teach. That's just pure awareness and knowledge of the game. So when you have a guy like him, you don't want to box him in. You allow him to just be who he is. Yeah. And then what Penny has done is surrounded that team with just winners.
Yeah.
And they don't care about anything but winning. And that's a really good sign.
So with you talked a few minutes ago about, in college basketball specifically, having a really good backcourt, and you've said you think Memphis might have the best backcourt in the country. How important is guard play in college basketball?
It wins you games because of the way and how defenses are set up, how you can draw, you can help, right? If you go down the list of past champions, all of them have had really good guards, right? You look at the past UConn teams. You go back to the UConn team with Shabazz Napier and Ryan Boatwright, right? That was my senior year, right? You look at
I forgot about Ryan Boatwright. Jeez,
you think about those teams and you think about the guards are really good, right? Yeah. College basketball is a guards and basketball is they say is a guards game too. But I think as you continue to elevate the NBA, you need bigs and wings and things of that nature. But in college basketball, a guard can win you a game because essentially they have it in their hand and they're controlling the tempo. So when you have a guard that can score and that's only job is to put points on the board at PJ Haggerty.
Yeah.
Excuse me. That's what you allow him to do. But you have a floor general who's capable of doing anything on the floor.
Yeah.
And Tyrese Hunter. He can go get you 30. He can get you 15. He can get you 9, 6, and 5, and it'd be a great night.
And he can get you He can get you boards. He doesn't care about
But you go back and then you have a guy who just plays his role in Kobe Rogers, who's very capable. If you don't remember the UConn game, and I said this to Coach the other day when I saw Coach, and I said, for your best player to foul out in the game against the number 2 team in the country, and then essentially your third. I don't want to put essentially your third option in the media's eyes comes in and literally scores every point he had in overtime and wins you the game.
Yeah.
That's what guards allow you to do.
Yeah.
Right? Because which we tried it back in our day, right? With Joe, Chris, Michael
Yeah.
Dixon,
Yeah.
Jaron, right? We
Yeah.
won games because of guards,
Oh
right?
my gosh.
Because
Yes,
you
y'all
have
did.
to adjust. And then when you,
Yeah.
and in college basketball, when you have veteran guards,
Oh man.
it's a totally different game, right? If you even look at how basketball is played now, when you go to Rutgers and you look at the kid Dylan Harper,
Yeah.
he single-handedly can win you a basketball game.
Yeah.
18 years old. So it's a guard's game, man.
It's wild. It's wild. So let's. I think we were discussing the backcourt, and I think it's fantastic. You've said Colby Rogers is the third option, and I would agree with that in the hierarchy of kind of what makes this team go. But Colby Rogers is the kind of guy who he makes winning plays like constantly, right? Like, and doesn't make. That's one of the things that I've noticed about this team is that there's not a lot of they don't make a lot of bad plays. Like there's not a lot of negative plays with this team. There
Right.
might be some missed shots, there might be some turnovers, there might be some things like that, but for an extended period of time, this team doesn't make a whole lot of bad plays. It's not bad
And
basketball.
you know why?
Why?
You have a guy that started every game of his college
Yeah.
career that can go get the ball and
Yeah,
essentially say, slow down. We're
Yeah.
good.
we're fine.
Right? We're good. I've been here before. And that's veteran guard play. You also have a guy that can go score 30. I can just go get you 30 at a high level. I don't care where PJ goes and plays basketball tonight. He can go score the ball. You put him in an NBA game right now, he can figure out a way to get you buckets. And a comparison that I have, and I've said it offline, I'm gonna say it on air, and you
Oh
can.
boy.
He's Cam Thomas.
Okay. I like that. Yeah.
He reminds me of Cam Thomas. He doesn't shoot it and
Not
gets
as well
it
as Cam,
off
yeah.
as well as Cam, but he can score the basketball at the rate that Cam Thomas can score the basketball. And that would be a comparison that I say. But when we're talking about Kobe Rogers here, Kobe Rogers is just a guy that just figures it out. He's a winner. He's a winner, and he can
He's a
shoot.
winner.
He can shoot the ball. So now you can shoot the ball, and then you throw in a guy like a Koji who could just
Oh
play,
man.
who can just
A
play off,
dog.
who may be one of my favorite players out there because
I
he
agree.
doesn't need the ball to make winning plays.
I agree.
He does not need to score 10. His impact, if you look at a stat sheet, you don't see his impact on the stat sheet.
Yep.
And guys like that are sometimes overlooked because what the perception of him may be, oh, he didn't have 15, but he figures it out. If you don't remember, he didn't practice about 2.5 weeks. He came in, he's one of the first guards off the bench against the Missouri game, and impact was felt, right? So the guys that know basketball know what impact those two guys have.
Well, let me ask you this then. Let's talk about that for a second. Because I would agree with you. Baraka is one of my favorite players on this team because of the impact that he has on winning in ways that you might not actually see in the box score. But if you're a hooper, you know what these dudes do. You know what these guys can do. There seems to be two of those guys for the
Right.
Tigers, Baraka and Nick Jourdain. Talk to me a little bit about the importance of a guy like Nick Jourdain on this team, man. Like you've mentioned it with Baraka, but you've got a 6'9" wing. I mean, a forward who can. He's a hybrid guy. The only returning player for the University of Memphis this year, but he impacts winning in a real way, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. He does because he's versatile. And then in this day and age of positionless basketball, Nick Jourdain can shoot the three. He may be shooting 40. I have to check. Maybe shooting 40-something% from three, 47% right now.
Right.
He was at 50% going into the Ohio game.
Yeah.
Right. So when you look at a Nick Jourdain who can knock down a three, he shoots free throws well enough. He can pick up at the front of the press. Right. He just brings a level of variety and flexibility to that staff and to that team that you just don't see. Right.
Yeah.
And if you ask me, I think the 4 position is the most dynamic position on the basketball floor. Because
I think most would say the 3, right? Like most would say
people say the 3. But if you go back and you date back and you just look at championship teams, they're the most dynamic because they can go down, they can pop out because now basketball is different. You look at Al Horford last year at the 4 with the Boston Celtics. Being able to just do what he could do, it brings a different approach to the game brings a
Yep.
different set of eyes because you essentially can mismatch them, or you slide them to the 5. Or you
Yeah.
can do what Penny did one game and say, you know what? I'm going to go with PJ, Tyrese, Nick, Musa, Dane Danger, right? And so
And then you take what I think is the biggest weakness this Tigers team has is size, and you
and you go big.
ratchet that up.
And
you
you
go
ratchet
big.
that up, and then you say, okay, cool, I'm going to put Nick at the top of the press and put 2 guys back. And so now you have to make them adjust.
Yeah.
Because Dane is one of the biggest low post scorers. He's one of the best low post scorers in the country. I watched him last year because Terrence Shannon and I, another guy that I coached at IMG and trained, was with him.
Hell of a player. Terrence Shannon Jr., by the way.
TJ's ridiculous.
Good
TJ's
God.
ridiculous. He's going to be a great NBA player, right? He's with the Minnesota Timberwolves first round pick.
I'm surprised he's not getting run right now, to be honest with you.
It takes time. The NBA.
It does.
It's 400 jobs, so it takes time. And when you learn it behind a guy like Anthony Edwards, it takes time.
Makes sense.
I watched Dane, and I'm like, I watched him a lot last year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this dude can play. So when he essentially committed to Memphis,
Yeah.
he called me.
Yeah.
And he was like, Trey, you got one. He's like, y'all got one. So to see it, and
Who said that? Oh,
TJ called me. And
I thought you meant Dane called you and said you got one. I was like,
TJ called me. TJ called me and said, I'm like, I've paid attention, and he's really good. So to see it, and now you have a low post presence that Penny can throw it into.
Yes.
He can score it down there, right? And this is what he doesn't get credit. He's a solid passer out of the double team.
Yes,
So
dude.
now,
Yes.
when you're talking X's and O's, and this is what I say on television, right? And kind of giving the game away on the podcast, so you might get a little viewers on this. When you double Dane Danger in the post, and you're kicking out to a 47% 3-point shooter, right. 39% 3-point shooter, 35, it makes that team that much more elite.
So let me ask you this:
guys on the floor that can shoot the basketball.
Let me ask you. So I've said this to Penny. I've said this to anybody that will listen to me. I think a lot of folks have been, and this is where Memphis fans, I think, kind of get a little bit of like ridiculous PTSD, like reactionary stuff to this. But I was talking to Penny about this, and I said, it feels like to me that Dane is kind of who you wanted Jordan Brown to be last year, right? Like who you thought Jordan Brown could be for this team. Because, there's this idea, this mentality that Penny Hardaway's offenses only work, like it's a guard heavy offense, and the bigs are only meant to like protect the rim and get rebounds and facilitate fast breaks. But it seems like to me, and I've talked to Penny about this, and he said is that one of the beauties of having somebody in the low post like Dane Danger who can actually, make moves, play make out of the post, who can do all those different things, is that you get like when things start to go a little haywire, on the press, or when things start to go a little bit haywire on fast breaks, you got a guy who you can just toss it down into, and you're going to get a good shot or a good pass out of the double team.
I can tell you this, and I think I can speak from experience because every championship team that I've been a part of has had a low post presence. You're not going to win championships pressing.
Yeah,
championships are won in the half court. They're won in the half court offense because that's just, you're eventually going to have to slow it down, and you're going to have to win a game 59-61.
Got to
58-60, or it may be 49. It's going to be days where you just can't get them. You can't get up and down. So if you're going to eventually have to win a game in the half court, why not we run it through Dane Danger? And the best part about this team is they don't have egos to the point where they don't mind throwing it into them.
Yeah,
and that's what I've seen. And I think just the coaching side of me sitting back and analyzing the game, I say, wow, you really don't have a weakness, right?
Yeah.
Championships are won in the half court and being healthy. You just stay healthy. You got a chance. You give yourself, you're healthy. I don't care what sport it is. If you're healthy, you give yourself a 50% chance to win a championship.
I like that. Let's go to the Maui for a second. Obviously, the Tigers went in and beat UConn, and I think that UConn might not be who we think they were at the beginning of the season. They have some holes, but they're still UConn. They're still Dan Hurley.
Still UConn.
Two-time defending champion. They still back-to-back.
Yeah,
then they played Michigan State, and then played Auburn in the championship. If you had told me that the Tigers would walk away from Maui 2-1 playing in the championship in Maui, I extremely happy, especially with the brackets that were there, the teams, the competition that was in Hawaii during that time period. Pretty incredible. What were your thoughts going into it and coming out of it about this Tigers team going 2-1, playing against Auburn in the championship game?
Seeing them, I had a few thoughts. So seeing them going back to North Carolina, and I said,
Yes. Okay.
I watched and I said, oh, this team is good. They didn't win that game. I said, this team is good. They're good because they have good guards.
Yes.
Like they have 3-4 really good guards that can go start on any team in the country. PJ would start on just about 98% of the team, if not 99.9% of the team in the country. Tyrese Hunter has proven he's started everywhere he's been.
Right.
Kobe Bryant's a starter. And I said, wow. So you take that, and then not only that, you play a top 10 team on the first time out. Then you go and you play the number 2 team in Alabama in the country. First 2 games. And you watch that and you say, so they've seen everything. That's not very respectfully, Lamont On and Christian brothers who we used to play. You're coming out the gates with 2
100%
potentially Final Four, Elite 8 opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go right into the SEC. So I'm like, wow, this team is already battle tested.
They're tested already.
They're not tested. So you're playing the long game here. So when you play the long game, and I said, oh, this team, instead of being its best in January, February, March, this team's gonna be really good in December, Thanksgiving, because they've seen it all. You're not Elliot Cadeau, RJ Davis didn't play, but right when you see those guys and you go against a Mark Sears,
go against a Mark Sears in Alabama,
so you're like, okay,
yeah.
So the basketball whiz in me is like, oh, I see what Penny's doing. I see it.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it. So now when you say, all right, cool, they went 2-1, I'm like, yeah, I'm not shocked, because you know why? They were battle tested back in October.
Yeah.
Essentially, so now they've been together 2 whole months, right? I think it was October 13th, 15th, first game of the year.
15th.
So that's 30. So they play in Thanksgiving. So that's almost 47 days since that game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So now you've had 48 days, 49 days to get better after seeing a Mark Sears and a Elliot Cadeau and those guys. So now this team is battle tested. So when you say, are you shocked? I honestly say no. I'm not shocked that they went 2-1 and had a chance to win it.
Well, let's dig down even deeper into it with the UConn game. Were you surprised that they were able to? I mean, because let's be frank about that game. The Tigers dominated UConn throughout that entire game. Obviously, last 3 minutes of the game, the UConn Huskies made their run, which championship medal, man. Like, you had to know that was going to happen, right?
Game of runs, right?
But then to go in without their best player in PJ Haggerty, their best guard, I would say, their guy who's able to score, like you've talked about, at any time, at anywhere on the court, to go into overtime and to beat that team in overtime after having given up a 13-point lead in 3 minutes. Like, what? I mean, do we walk away from that? Should Tiger fans walk away from that with anything but impressed by the stones on this team?
Yeah, well, this is the thing when you talk about games like that. Basketball is a game of runs. At the end of the day, if you know that UConn is going to make runs. Was I shocked that they won the game? Not really, because once again, they had really good guards. I knew it could go either way. So that's why I took the unbiased to say, okay, wow, let me see how this plays out.
Yeah.
Right? And you go and you see, let me see how good this team really is. Because there are going to be games that PJ fouls out. That Tyrese is, God forbid, he may sit, right? Yeah. Things happen. You get the stomach bug, right? You may get the flu. You may have somebody twist the ankle.
Things happen, man.
He's going to step up. So when you learn in November that
PJ Carter will step up.
That PJ
scored 9 points in overtime, bro.
Think about that. Free throws
and a 3-pointer. Came in first shot off the bench.
So think about that.
Was in overtime. Blah.
So when you think about that, you say, okay, I'm learning a lot about this team.
Yes.
Right? And I don't want to put too many expectations on them and say, other than Memphis, just let it play out. There's
What a
some really
place.
special Memphis. There's some really special things going on right now in Memphis, Tennessee with basketball.
Yes, there
And
is.
I know this city because I'm from there and I've been there.
Yeah.
They're itching for a parade on Beale Street.
Itching.
Itching.
We want it.
And it's coming. I don't know when, but if you're a betting person, you know that things change.
Yeah.
So you sit back and you say, the Grizzlies have won 6 in a row. The Tigers are now showing, right? Odds are now in your favor, right? So you can't just throw, projections on them and things like that because it's a long season, right?
Is.
And if I've learned anything in my years, I've been doing this 10 years now. Started when I was 22,
Yeah.
right? I noticed that it's like this. It's a long season. So when people ask me, I get excited. I'll be like, long game. I just say the long game. Just play the long game. We don't know how it's going to play out because injuries happen. Other teams get better. These teams get worse, right? And a good example is our team last year. Here, and it was here, right? And then so now it's like no expectations. Just sit back and let it just play out.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, I'm excited to when I heard you were the new broadcast guy for the Tigers, I was excited because I knew I was going to be able to see you at the FedEx Forum quite a bit, man. So listen, Trey, thank you, man. I appreciate you jumping on here. I love talking Tiger basketball with you, man, especially as a former player and just a guy who knows the game well, man. It's a pleasure talking basketball with you, brother.
I appreciate you having me, bro.
All right, man. Listen, where can folks find you at, man? Where can they get the winning language and where can they follow you at?
You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter. I don't have TikTok yet, but it's Trey Draper 3. So it's all together, my name and then the number 3, just Trey Draper 3. I'm on Facebook at just Trey Draper. The winning language you can get on Amazon, or if you see me out in traffic, I may have a couple copies on me. I've been donating. It's Christmas time, so if you catch me on the right day, I've been donating to just a lot of people telling them Merry Christmas, man. So
I'm still waiting for my signed copy, bro. Where's my signed copy?
If you remind me, Merry Christmas. If you remind me on Wednesday, I bring it to the game. Just remind me. Because I just got some in. So yeah, just remind me Wednesday.
Oh man, listen, dude. If you do get a TikTok, you have to promise me that you'll do one of those TikTok dances. Would you do a TikTok dance?
Like Jerry McCain does?
Yeah, you gonna do a Jerry McCain? You gonna do a Jerry McCain type account?
No. That ain't me.
That ain't me.
That's why I ain't got TikTok yet.
The Mitchell guys would be like, "Bro, what are you doing, man?"
Yeah, bro. We ain't. Yeah, who is he? Yeah, what are you doing? I'm a traditional guy. No, I don't paint the nails. Yeah, I'm cool. I just get the low haircut and work, dress up, and go to work.
Listen, bro. Well, listen, man. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.
All right, bro. Appreciate you, man.